we'll go ahead and get started here. Okay, we are live and ready to go.
Great. Well, it is Wednesday, September 9th, 2020 for the second day of the scheduled State Board of Equalization hearings. My name is Ben Johnson. I'm the chairman. Also on the Zoom call, we've got members Bob Schiffmacher, Al Plank, and Glenn Trowbridge. Providing legal counsel to the board is Michelle Briggs, Senior Deputy Attorney General with the Attorney General's Office. Department of Taxation, we have Deputy Director Jeff Mitchell. Jeff, will you introduce your staff as well that's helping today?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Mitchell for the record. Here providing staff for the State Board today is myself, Christina Griffiths, Denisa Johnston, and Hector Sepulveda.
Thank you very much. Today, there's only one case, my understanding is. What we're going to do for that is each side will have 15 minutes. We'll start with the county identifying the property, giving us a little background of the unique situation here. Then we'll give the petitioner 15 minutes, give the county 15 minutes, and then a rebuttal of 5 minutes for the petitioner. Then we'll close the hearing. We'll deliberate as a board and reach a decision. With that, I would like to have Michelle Briggs swear in anyone that plans to testify today.
Sure. If anyone would like to testify today, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
I do.
Thank you, Michelle. Now let's move on to public comment. Is there anyone at this time that would like to give public comment and address the board? Anyone on the line, Christina, that you'd be aware of that has indicated they want to give public comment?
There is nobody on the line to give public comment.
Great. Well, we'll give public comment again shortly after we hear this case. So if there is anyone that does want to give public comment that's listening that didn't call in, we'll come back to that at the end of the meeting. With that, Jeff, will you call our first case?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Mitchell for the record. Under agenda item F for possible action recommendation by the secretary to dismiss taxpayers' direct appeal of property on the 1617, 1718, 1819, and 1920 unsecured roll. Determination of jurisdiction of the State Board is case number 20-178, Quidtech, Martin, Nevada Precision Metrology is the petitioner. The property type is industrial or personal property, and the respondent is the Washoe County Assessor. Proper notice of hearing can be found on page 59. And the taxpayer and the respondent are both available by Zoom today.
Great. And it looks like we have a taxpayer rebuttal. Is that new evidence, or that was submitted timely and it's already allowed in?
Because of the direct appeal, I believe that the rebuttal is already allowed into the evidence.
Okay. Great. Well, with that, let's go to the assessor, and I want you to identify the property. And can you also elaborate and give a bit of context for the history of this matter? I think that would help the board initially to understand some context for the history.
No problem. And good morning, members of the board. For the record, my name is Shannon Scott with the Washoe County Assessor's Office, and the commercial business appealing today is Nevada Precision Metrology. This is hearing number 20-178. They are located at 8555 Double R Boulevard, Suite 105 in Reno, Nevada. NRS 361-360 requires taxpayers to protest valuations to the State Board of Equalization directly when an assessment is made between December 15th and April 30th. The Washoe County Assessor's Office sent a discovery email to the Nevada Precision Metrology on April 13th, 2020. Notifying the taxpayer of the audit findings and the discovery variances. Traditionally, we would have billed this account prior to the April 30th deadline. However, which is why the state board appeal was provided to the taxpayer. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the assessor's office made the decision to bill audit accounts after the April 30th deadline to allow the taxpayer more time to review their audit discovery and file a written exception with our office. As this account was billed on May 14th, 2020, I believe the appeal could be forwarded to the County Board of Equalization for decision, and I would ask the state to consider making an exception to hear this case or to refer it to the County Board of Equalization that meets this coming February. Do you have any questions regarding the location or the timeline?
No, I think that I get that, and just very high level. I just want to make sure I understand what you said correctly. The reason we're hearing this as direct appeal is because you guys gave latitude with COVID for the filing, and the county board timeline had passed. So the property taxpayers appealing to us directly because they weren't able time-wise to go before the county board due to COVID.
Actually, because of when it was billed, the appropriate entity to appeal to would be the county. They have until January 15th of 2021 to appeal.
Okay.
This is Bob Schiffmacher. I'm looking at the appeal form, and does that extension of the timeline appeal to all 3 years that are being appealed, the 17, 18, 18, 19, and 19, 20 timeline, or just the most recent appeal date?
It applies to all years. They were all unnoticed and billed at the same time.
Okay.
No, that was very helpful for me. That gives us some options today. I'd like to turn it over to the petitioner. Please state your name for the record, and then you have 15 minutes to present your case.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for your time this morning. I've been in the aerospace optics business for...
Oh, what's your name?
My name is Martin Quiddick,
Okay.
and I've been in the aerospace optics business for the past 3 decades. And I opened up this facility drawn to the community by EDON from the Bay Area 4.5 years ago. And we traditionally have worked on aerospace projects that are under fairly tight review by Missile Defense Agency. And so technical audits are something that are fairly common in my background. The reason I filed this rebuttal is I don't feel I've received an adequate answer to quite a number of questions. And it seems that many of the guidances for self-reporting and some of the differences between state tax law and county tax law are a little bit ambiguous to a private business owner. And so I'd really like to return to my rebuttal. And I provided for the first bullet, tax year 2017, an exhibit of an email exchange to a representative at the Washoe County Assessor's Office, who's been extremely helpful. But it shows that I, in fact, did report a $7,650 addition to my equipment list in year 2017. And for some reason, the database did not record it. And one of the frustrations I would like to share today is that it wouldn't be until the following year that I would recognize the piece of equipment was not properly added to the listing.
And I want to make sure I understand that. So sorry for interrupting you.
Sure.
You're saying you submit online, you think it's on there, but you don't get a list of the property you're being assessed against until the following summer. So you're
That's
not
correct.
able to say any way to air check it.
Correct.
Okay.
And in lieu of the audit, which dinged me for that underreporting, there doesn't seem to be a link at the assessor's office to show an account history for this event, and it was actively reported. And then in tax year 2018, I had a piece of customer equipment on site for calibration and metrology. This involves setting up an injection mold for a customer and calibrating it using some of the metrology equipment I have here on site. And shortly after that was completed, the equipment was shipped off to the customer. I did not own the machine, but I've paid taxes on it. And the last one really is the Nevada state ruling that I quote in 2009, which declares that any freight or rigging costs, if they're associated with the purchase of a piece of equipment, if issued by separate purchase orders, is excluded from state sales tax. It seems to me the Washoe County policy, which is a 2004 code, should be in parity with the state, and this was an ongoing question, perhaps related to the audit. You know, in summary, I would like to state that my self-reporting is in the upper 95%. I feel like I'm in good standing. The goal is 100%. But, you know, the reason I've appealed this is to really gain a little better knowledge of some of the policies, and it's not always clear. I can go to the state website and comb through all of the guiding code, but I just feel that the general reporting website should have some training or additional information to assist small business owners in navigating this compliance matrix. That's about all I have to say, really.
So Martin, this is Bob Schiffmacher. How are you this morning?
Good.
So I'm looking at, first of all, bullet point number 3, the Nevada state ruling regarding sales tax.
Yes.
This is a Board of Equalization for personal property tax, which is different than sales taxes. And I'm not sure the dynamic you're looking for, the comparison between the two. The sales tax exemption or exclusion is different than a personal property tax exclusion, and I'm unclear as to what the issue is.
Well, you know, unless I'll give you an example. When I did start the business, I went to a state tax presentation that was done by the local tax collecting agency on Kitsky over here in town. They put on a very nice seminar on how to comply with state law and sales use tax filing. And wrapped up in that was also an IRS presentation, which covered a number of particulars. I just feel that Washoe County could do itself a big favor by presenting a similar type of course on the complexities of these reporting issues, instead of having to go through an audit and discovering this stuff the hard way. I think with my 95% compliance matrix, I've gotten pretty close. I'd like to close the gap.
So I understand, and I agree with you regarding the ongoing training or the opportunity to get instruction from the assessor's office regarding conforming to their reporting requirements. But then I get back to this bullet point. I'm not sure, other than bringing the difference between the sales tax and the property tax to light, I'm not sure what in that particular case you're asking of us.
Well, it's curious to me that the policies are different. They're not in parity. And it seems to me the flow down from the state would take precedence. And if purchase orders for rigging and freight, especially, which is a labor cost, essentially transport, why would that be ganged into an equipment cost, an overall value, and depreciated over 7 to 15 years?
So the issue here is that, and I'm going to use an example, not just round numbers. You've purchased a $10,000 piece of equipment and there's $2,000 in shipping and rigging. On the county's books, that's being held at $12,000, which would be the cost of the equipment plus the cost of the rig, the labor and transportation and delivery.
Potentially, yes, that's
Okay.
post audit. That is how I feel they guide this policy.
Okay.
If I may, this is Al Plank. It is circumstantial, or not circumstantial. It's specific to, I guess, different guidelines all the way around. Sales tax, use tax versus ad valorem or property tax. Generally accepted accounting principles also would include freight and what was capitalized and depreciated for financial reporting, because it's all cost to acquire, install, and place into service the piece of equipment. So I think that's just one more example of where, depending on the circumstances for what the reporting requirement is, it's going to be tough to find that parity that you speak of.
Okay.
Any other questions, the board members, while we're here? And I want to give Martin the opportunity to.
I guess in regard to the first bullet, that would be my primary argument, since I have presented evidence that I've tried to report this originally back in 2017. Perhaps I could get a response from the Washoe County group as to what went wrong really with the database.
So before we go there, this is Bob Schiffmacher again. Regarding the underreporting, is there a penalty that's accreted? Or
Yes, there is. It's all, okay. I'm all paid up.
You broke up, I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, everything's been paid in full. I paid all of the invoices. 17.
So the question was regarding this $7,650 alleged underreporting. Was there a penalty that accrued that you had to pay because of the underreporting, or was it just rolled into the next tax bill?
I believe there's a penalty involved in that.
Okay.
Any other questions from board members at this point? Seeing as there doesn't appear to be, I think there's some good questions you've raised, Martin, and I mean, I very much appreciate that you're trying to do the right thing. You seem very thorough and very thoughtful, which I'm very appreciative of. So if you don't have anything further, we'll go to Washoe, allow for them to respond, and then you will have 5 minutes for rebuttal and further questions from us prior to us closing the case. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Great. Washoe County, you've got 15 minutes, and I'd appreciate addressing the issues raised by Martin. I mean, particularly for us, it looked like he tried to add this property to the roll, did everything he thought he needed to, and for some reason it wasn't picked up, and I'm struggling with penalizing him for trying to do the right thing.
Good morning. So as Mr. Quickett has explained, this appeal stems from a 2019 audit for the tax years 2016 through 2019. Washoe County contracted with Tax Management Associates to perform the audit, and the auditor, Alyssa Shehorn, is here today if you have any questions specific to her audit findings. I would like to start by addressing the taxpayer's original concerns in his original appeal, and then I'll address his additional rebuttal. After receiving the discovery letter, Mr. Quickett expressed concerns over multiple items, including the inclusion of transportation costs in the acquisition costs of an asset. I explained to him that NAC 361-1351 defines acquisition cost or original cost as the actual cost of property to its present owner, including without limitation the cost of transportation and the cost of installation, so it therefore must be included. He also expressed concern over the possibility of sales tax being included in the acquisition cost. He then provided me copies of several invoices, and if you wanted to see those invoices, you could refer to attachment B in the packet, which is located on page 18. Upon review, I was able to determine that the sales tax on those items had not been included. If you would now turn to attachment C, which is located on page 34 of your packet, I would like to address how the 2018 taxable variance was determined. So there were 9 new assets with original cost totaling $19,891 that were discovered during the audit. After applying cost indexes and depreciation, the resulting additional taxable value was $17,891. I confirmed with Alyssa that she had also not been provided any information on sales tax expense for the years under the audit. If the audit variance matches the sales tax expense recognized in that year, I would have to consider it a strange coincidence. Again, this is referring to a statement that was made in his original appeal where he was concerned that our audit discovery matched exactly his sales tax recognized on his federal tax returns. The only item that was estimated as a part of this audit was the injection molding press. I do not believe that the value assigned to this asset is being questioned, only its ownership and whether or not he should be responsible for taxation. Online research was, however, done, and I do, in my opinion, is the $12,500 value assigned is well supported. Ownership for that asset is like a lease, as Nevada Precision Metrology is in possession of the equipment and used it during its operation in both the 2018 and 2019 tax years. We did not have an account set up for space in 2018, and they did not report the asset to us. Nevada Precision Metrology had possession of the asset and are ultimately responsible for the assessment. As the asset was removed in December 2019, after the July 1, 2019 lien date, it will be removed for the 2020 tax year. To address the taxpayers' procedural questions, business personal property declarations are due on July 31st of each year. Accounts are then processed and billed monthly, September through April. Nevada Precision Metrology was processed and billed for the 18-19 fiscal year in January of 2019, and in September 2019 was billed for the 19-20 fiscal year. We are unable to guarantee when an account will be processed, and because we operate on a fiscal cycle, it is possible that a business may have 2 assessments in the same calendar year that represent different fiscal years. NRS 361-767 allows us to open an account for audit for the current plus 3 additional years. Washoe County has implemented an audit program where all accounts will be audited at least once every 7 years. And Nevada Precision Metrology was selected in 2019. Now to address the issues raised in the rebuttal. In regards to the 2017 assessment, the taxpayer did not properly file his 2017 asset declaration, and our EDEC filing system was fully functioning. Instead of adding the asset to the assets page, a note was made providing us information on the air compressor. Our office did miss reviewing the note, and the asset was not assessed until the 2018 tax year. As this asset existed in July of 2017, the assessment should still apply. In regards to the sales tax issue, I believe the 2009 ruling Mr. Quiddick is referring to is AB 403, which deals with what should be reported to the state for Nevada state sales tax, not business personal property assessment. As stated previously, NAC 361-1351 defines acquisitions costs for assessment purposes. Another item that I did want to mention was our office does typically have annual business personal property instruction classes that we offer once a year. We had to cancel them this year because of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, we do have a PowerPoint online that walks the taxpayer not just through how to file in our system, but also what is responsible, what they are responsible for.
I took that online. Yes, I did. I did use that online presentation.
Based on this information, we would ask you to uphold our valuations for the tax years 2016 through 2019. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. My first question is, it's agendized under untimely filed appeal. So the secretary of our board's recommending we dismiss and don't accept jurisdiction due to untimely filing for this one. It doesn't sound in your initial comments that would have been appropriate. So I'm curious, just your thoughts relative to a couple different things we could do from this board. One, we could remand to the county board with the instructions to hear it for their regularly scheduled hearings next year. That way he's getting similar and consistent treatment with other taxpayers. And this should have been heard at the county first. Or we could, we could deny jurisdiction. I don't know if that's appropriate based on what I've heard, because he can still appeal up through 2021. It sounded like of next year. Or number three, we could accept jurisdiction and hear the case on its merits today and decide it. I just want your thoughts relative to those three potential courses of action, and if you guys have a preference for how we handle it. Or did I break up there?
No, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, that was directed at the Washoe County folks, right?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you guys were going to. I don't particularly have a preference, although I do feel that the taxpayer has a right to have this case heard. So whether you guys want to take jurisdiction over it or refer it back to the county, I'm indifferent. I just wanted to make sure that he had his opportunity to appeal.
So
Okay.
this is Bob Schiffmacher. Is there an explanation as to why it appears on our agenda as a late filing?
Yes, so the appeal that was provided to the taxpayer back in April was provided to him with with the May 15th deadline to appeal. He did not appeal timely in that regard, although because of the decision that we made after that document was provided to him, a new appeal should have been provided for the county board. It wasn't.
So that decision that you made was related to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Correct. Because we do audit quite a number of accounts, we were sending out the notices so close to the deadline, we wanted to make sure that the taxpayers all had enough time to review the audit before needing to appeal. Again, noting that they would have been billed right around April 30th and would have needed to appeal by May 15th.
Okay. More global, and it doesn't apply to this case individually, the issue I see raised, and I understand from Martin's perspective of, he's clearly a very intelligent individual, but it is kind of confusing, I think, to try and walk through all this process. You guys hold, it sounds like once a year, some type of workshop to help. And it would apply to more than this. I'm just curious, what is there more we can be doing? And you guys do a lot. You guys do a really, really good job. You guys have a very, very difficult job and a lot going on. So it's in no way a criticism. It's just, are there more people out there like Martin that he clearly seems to want to do the right thing, in my opinion. He's just confused and there's very specific issues. And policy-wise, I'm kind of wondering, is there just more we can do? Martin's the type of person we want coming to Nevada. High-paying jobs, out of California. Everyone wants more of him here in Northern Nevada. So but I don't know. I mean, your guy, like, it's hard too, because the rules are the rules. You guys are clearly interpreting them. And as I listen to your responses, there's valid reasons. It's just that educational component. Is there more we can do would be my question.
In Washoe County, we did take steps last year where now whenever we set up a new account, we send out a new business letter along with a brochure with information on directing them how to get to our website. So letting them know that we do offer classes to try to get that education in front of them before they get their notice to file, so that they're at least aware of what the tax is and that they're going to be responsible for it. And we've had good response to that. But that's one step that we've taken in the past year or so.
Okay, that's really helpful. And what I go back to so many times, I have people that I consider to be very smart that I interact with, and the tax system confuses them in Nevada. And I think it's just when you work in it, you become experts and it becomes more simple to you, and you don't, it's just always maintaining that, hey, we understand the process, we work in it, we're specialized, but someone that doesn't, it's really confusing as you come in. And it's just that level, I think, of recognition of how much you guys know and how specialized, and how it just doesn't necessarily appear intuitive to others that don't normally work in it. So I appreciate that you guys are doing things there to try and continue to just educate, and you guys are following the laws as they're written. I respect that, and I understand that.
Ben, this is Bob again. I think you're kind of getting to the meat of the issue. The question is on the table at this point, whether we accept jurisdiction, and chewing through the meat of the issue has to come second after we've made the determination as to whether this is the appropriate venue or whether remanding it to the county is a more appropriate task. And I would almost suggest that, given the unusual nature of the problem that we face because of the pandemic, that we leave it to, we also get feedback from Martin regarding whether he would like this here or whether a remand to the county would suit his needs. He does appear to be adequately prepared, however, to address the meat of the issue.
Yeah, and that was very much going to be my question to Martin when we went back to him. So once we're done with the county, let's ask the question, just because there's benefits to both sides, and we can kind of talk it through. I think a fair, frank discussion with him relative to what he wants us to do, and then we can decide as a board.
Do you mind if I make a few comments?
Let's make sure Washoe County's done, and then we'll come back to you.
All right.
Is there anything else from your end, from Washoe County's end?
I don't have anything else at this time.
Okay, and then Al, Glenn, do you guys have any questions for Washoe County before we go back to Martin for his rebuttal?
No, I'm interested to find out what Mr. Kiewit has to say.
Okay.
Yeah, as for me, it's just the rules are the rules, and we don't want to set any precedent, but I think this virus thing probably reaches the threshold of extraordinary, and if both parties are willing to get this resolved, then I'm on board.
Sounds great. Well, Martin, we're back to you.
Okay.
And our question, we'll ask it now or later, is it appears that the board's willing to entertain two options. One is to go back to the county board, remand this to the county board, allow them to hear it first. That would preserve the right to come back and appeal to our board if you are aggrieved by the county's decision. Or number two, it sounds like the will of the board is to accept jurisdiction and hear the case on its merits today, which would give you finality in the matter. It's really, we'd look to you for your preference. When we can,
Okay.
we want to give latitude to the property owner.
Well, to be honest, I'm just satisfied with the discussion this morning. I don't see a need to take it any further. I am all paid up. I would like to make the comment that it took quite a bit of work to get to Shannon's level, and she's been extremely helpful in the communications. Prior to that, I think it's unfortunate that the county is using an out-of-state auditor I think there are some ambiguities between different states that some of these auditors operate in. And that really becomes the face of the department. And I'd like to see a more community-based audit, maybe a local auditor. I've had a wonderful experience with my original contact, which I submitted, Angela Phillips. She's been extremely helpful. And I think that 3 months lack of communication or dialogue really put me in this situation. It compelled me to file the appeal in the first place. So I was just looking for a dialogue, and you folks have provided it. So I'm pretty much satisfied with that.
Okay. I'm just debating on my end. Because I very much respect you raising the issues, and that you're being heard, because we need to know how people like you view the system.
Sure.
That's really important to us. Is there any other relief? We'll have a discussion when we deliberate with Jeff, who's in charge from a state level of overseeing the Department of Taxation, seeing if there's a better way we can do things, educate. I'll raise your question relative to a local auditor at that point. Is there anything else that you want us to ask of the department?
Well, early on, I was curious as to what triggered it. And I know it's a new state law that's been implemented, and Shannon explained every 4 years it's going to roll over for all private businesses. And I think if the department could sort of track a comparison of a normal curve relative to other data reporting from private businesses in the local area, we at least have a way of gauging how close we're getting to hitting the mark. And I did ask for that in several communications to the department. But simple normal curve, where are we at? Is it picking pine needles off the mountain, or is, we're already paying for the mountain? How many needles do we want to find? And it's sort of like counting pencils. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, I mean, that's a really valid point that you're asking for there, the data that should be public. How do we assemble it and disseminate
Sure.
it to allow someone like you to see how you're doing?
Exactly.
I very much respect striving for 100%.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I'll just concede.
Okay. Board members, any questions before we close it?
Maybe just a comment as far as this topic of how to improve the public's knowledge of the processes. I think, and Jeff, you can set me straight on this, but I think this brings back to the table, that workshop that's held annually, and you guys are looking for participation from taxpayers like Martin to give input. Is that an accurate statement?
Jeff Mitchell for the record. Yes, we want as much input on that workshop as possible. Getting the news out about it has proved difficult, but yes, that personal property workshop that is held each spring, which sets the life expectancies and kind of the rules that gauge the personal property reporting and the so forth. We try to garner as much feedback as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Glenn, anything from you? Or Al, first, were you done? Sorry, I didn't want to.
I don't have a question, but I do have a thought. My feelings are that it would probably be most appropriate to send it back to the county assessment board, and they could be in a better position to correct some things that need to be corrected, such as the sales tax needs to be included in the costs. But there's other things that might lend them to take a little closer look at some of the things that they're doing. Without them taking a close look, next time we have a problem such as this that comes up, it will come directly to us rather than being fixed at the lowest possible level, which in this case would be the county assessor. And I don't think we need to get involved in making exceptions going back to 2017. Yesterday, we turned down a couple of appeals because it was multiple years that the time limits had been exhausted. So my thought is to support sending it back to the county for review.
Okay, and what I like about your solution, Al, is I think Martin, if I'm understanding this correct, and I think I am, it's about him, but it's not. He wants to see a more fair and just better education in the system. He saw some shortcomings as he went through it, and it's not about him individually. It's about collectively the taxpayers. That's what I sense, which I'm really respectful of. But if we preserve his right to continue this appeal if he wants by remanding it to the county. He may be sufficient with us hearing his issues, trying to address it. It's more global than just him though. But if he does feel that he wants to come back to it, we don't foreclose him from doing that by rendering a decision today and hearing it. If we schedule it for the county board next year, which we can do, then he still has that opportunity if later on he decides that he wants to pursue specific issues raised in his appeal. Does that make sense?
As to me.
Okay. That's
Is
where, I mean,
just
you've
a quick
heard,
one,
we'll close after this, Martin, but you've heard really, Frank, where our thought process is. So anything else you want to add before we close it and deliberate what to do? We'd like to hear from you.
Well, sorry for taking up all of your time, but I really appreciate this being part of the record and just having a chance to have a dialogue. Thank you.
Wonderful. We appreciate you.
So Martin, just to clarify, there really is no controversy with the exception of the transportation and rigging costs regarding the valuations that have been established. The audit resulted in identifying stuff for whatever reason did not appear on the roll. You're not contesting that, as an example, item A for 2017 has a base cost of $7,650. That is not an issue.
No, it's not.
The question as to the inclusion of the rigging costs in the 2018 valuation of $17,891 has been clarified. That number is no longer in question, really. It's merely been added to the roll as the result of the audit, and the reason that we're here is to clarify those couple of points without really setting any precedent for any other valuation issues. You wanted to understand what the process is, understand how we got here, and the numbers themselves are really not in contention.
That's a good summary.
Okay. Under, my thoughts are under those specific parameters that if we were to take jurisdiction of this case, I don't think that we'd be setting precedent that would cause us future problems. This is clearly an unusual year, as you have indicated, because of the timelines that were modified as the result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we really aren't being asked to address any valuation issues that would be controversial and or carry to other property owners. And so my thought would be that there is very little risk to either us, the county, or the taxpayer in taking jurisdiction.
So with that said,
Well, let's make sure
If
we
there's-
closing it and deliberating then.
okay,
Let's, anything further, Martin, before we close it and we'll deliberate amongst the board? And,
No, I'm fine. I think just the 2017, I still haven't heard a cause and corrective action for that lapse of transfer in the internet portal to the database. And that's the only thing. There's got to be some cause and corrective action for that issue.
Okay. I think that we can get a resolution to that through a motion, and I'll discuss that with the board and see if we can get there
Okay.
during our deliberation. But with that, thank you for your time, and we'll deliberate. It's in public, so please stay and listen, but no one can add to it once we close it.
Okay, I've got to light up a few machines, so thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you very much.
Martin, thank you very much
Have a good day.
for, thank you.
Goodbye.
So board, I'll look to your guidance. Really the two options are we accept jurisdiction, decide the case on its merits, or we send it back to the county. Accept jurisdiction, send it back to the county for their hearing. There's pros and cons to each one. There's finality. There's not a lot of actual issues at stake. There doesn't seem like there's that much of a disagreement. I think Martin just wants, he likes processes, he likes processes to work from what I gathered. And he just doesn't, it's frustrating to him that he adds something in for a given tax year and there's no way to air check it until he gets his personal property tax roll the next year. That's the only thing. And maybe there's a way to do it, maybe there's not from Washoe County's perspective, but I'm comfortable with accepting jurisdiction, remanding it to the county so it's heard in a similar and consistent manner, because normally these issues wouldn't be heard directly from the state board. It's due to COVID and the timeline that he appealed directly to us. Normally it should be heard at the county board, but more than anything, that keeps the case alive. And that just allows for a discussion. Shannon's done a great job, but I wouldn't mind I think it cleans up the system. Is there a way to allow someone to view their personal property account in real time? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I know in Douglas, I've struggled with that. You submit it and you just can't see it again until the following year. And I don't know how many people are actually like Martin and want to air check and be completely honest with what they're doing. I hope there's a lot of people that are like that. But I could see the benefit, and maybe that already exists today in Washoe system and we just don't understand it, but it's not necessarily the issues of his appeal specifically. It's a more broad issue, and just, is there ways we can continue? All of us want to get better every day, and Martin's saying, hey, are there things you can do to just help be better? But I'm up for your guys' thoughts as well as a board, which way you want to go, and go for it.
This is Bob Schiffmacher. My thoughts are that if we accept jurisdiction and we address these issues at the state level, then it's more likely that the solutions that that Martin has requested or his problems that he's highlighted might be addressed on more of a global statewide basis than if we remand to the county level. Then Washoe County is the only county that directly benefits from the actions. And so I think that because, as you've stated, your issues in Douglas County somewhat mirror the issues that Martin has experienced in Washoe County, that a more global solution and discussion may have a broader, it may solve a much broader problem.
Okay. Al, love to hear from you.
I just, in the taxpayer's testimony, I actually heard him state that he was just going to concede because through the discussion, I think he had a better understanding, and that seems to be the issue that we're centering this on. I just wonder if we accept jurisdiction and remand it back to the county, I would wonder if he's even going to pursue that because the assessor has given latitude based on the conditions. He's got a better explanation of the things that were issue for him. And he said, okay, I'll concede. I just don't know if we're going to gain anything one way or the other. I guess I'm struggling to see if we do on the pros and cons side, if we do accept jurisdiction, are we setting a precedent? And there is the pros of the more global exposure to this frustration from taxpayers. But if we don't, I think it's, my guess is that it is just going to drop by the wayside.
So
Okay.
your anticipation would be that if we remand it to the county, now that he's voiced his concerns, that it's likely that he would just drop the appeal anyway.
Yeah, it sounded like he just dropped it on us anyways. You know, I heard him say the word concede.
Yes.
And that was my take as well. And the only reason, and what I'm gonna do is ask Jeff for his thoughts on this, just because it's an unusual case. And my question to Jeff will be, are there merits to the things Martin raised, and are there things we can just do to try and continuously improve, or are we going way too out in the weeds? So Jeff, if you feel comfortable weighing in, I would like your thoughts on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Mitchell for the record. If I can speak freely, I've heard both avenues explored. From the bureaucratic side, I believe that the right decision is to remand it back to the county for their future hearing. Procedurally, that is the more correct way, and it's more in line with how all of the hearings should fall. So this is a unique case because it's not untimely because it's late. It's untimely because it's early. And so from the state's perspective, I would rather follow the proper procedure and be heard at the county, and then an appeal from the county up to the state board to address those issues. In regards to better education and better processes, that is a constant struggle and a constant goal from the state level and the county levels. It has been expressed that Nevada's property tax system is complex. Having worked in it for almost a decade now, I will attest and testify that that is very much true. And so simplifying that process and developing that education and outreach is a goal, but it is also a struggle to try to bring that equality. I don't know if that helps, but those are my general thoughts.
Okay, and my question to you, Jeff, and I want Washoe County to know that I think they do a lot really, really well. And I have a ton of respect for them. Do you think we've done enough today, Jeff, just where it's in the back of their mind? Because Washoe, they don't want questions when people come to them. They want to do everything in their power to get answered. They're trying, they're continually changing, trying to do better things. We heard that today. So they're on the same train, but do you think enough was done today where just Martin's issues were heard? He's high up at Washoe, so they're all listening to his concerns. You're listening. It's in the back of your mind as you guys make decisions. It's a constant reminder of a very couple specific things that potentially could be enhanced, and just this overall global, we need to educate, but we all know that's just a reinforcement of the importance of educating the public. Is there anything further down that path we should do, or it was sufficient today just to bring it to the forefront of our minds?
I believe it was sufficient.
Okay. I do too. The last question, process-wise, I agree with you. I'm just trying to think, because I think Martin will end up withdrawing his appeal. He has, based on what he said today, he did concede, and that's what Al heard as well. He doesn't have anything to contest. He is just, I think he tried hard to do the right thing, and he was frustrated that he thought he did the right thing and that he hadn't. That's what I got the basis of his appeal being. But I guess process-wise, if he does decide he has an issue, he could raise it with the county that preserves everything for as long as possible. Okay. Glenn, help us out here. What should we do?
My original position was to send it back to the county to rehear, and the taxpayer certainly retains the right to appeal that decision next year. And it sounds like that's staff's preference also. I also think that if it goes back to the county for discussion, a topic that will come up is what appears to be an excellent training program the county puts on, but it's got some other areas that could use some clarification. And if it confuses a gentleman as bright as Mr. Kawicki, it's really going to confuse less competent people.
Great. Is that a motion?
I don't think it's worded exactly right, but I'll give it a try.
Yeah, no, please do it.
Okay, I make a motion, we remand this 2178 back to the county of Washoe to review and render another decision.
Great. Is there a second for that motion?
I will second that.
Is there any further comments from the board prior to voting?
Jeff Mitchell for the record, if we could just have clarification that this is to be heard at their upcoming County Board of Equalization hearings, the ones in 2021, rather than having them reconvene and hear it right now.
Oh yes, just let's do it next regular session.
Great. And then do you renew your second based on those modifications, Al?
Yes, I do.
Great. Any other comments from the board? And thank you, Jeff, for that comment and clarification. Seeing as none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Jeff, call the next case if there is one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Mitchell for the record. The two cases under agenda item G, withdraw. Oh, I can't even pronounce the word. They have withdrawn last night.
Okay,
So there are no more cases on the agenda.
great. And any comments from the department before we close?
Appreciate all that you guys do and the consideration that you give. Thank you.
Great. We appreciate you guys as well and the hard work that we know is put into making these hearings function properly, which I think they do. Board members, any comments, questions, general, global from the board?
I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but I would like, this pandemic, we fight between latitude and setting a precedent. And I was hoping maybe Michelle could give us a little guidance on the strength of setting, what the strength of setting a precedent is, what the risks are. And in this virus, it hasn't hit as much as I thought it would, but there's still maybe that one instance where does this rise to the level of an exception? I don't know if you kind of understand I'm looking for some guidance, I guess, from Michelle's point of view.
Sure. So I think you guys always retain discretion. You could decide to accept jurisdiction on the facts of a particular case and decide another case entirely differently. So I don't think you are required to do the same thing in every case because every case is different. And you can accept the fact that there was a pandemic and the bill was sent late, but would have been sent sooner. And so he could have filed a direct appeal, and that's and it would have been timely, and you guys would have had jurisdiction. So, that is entirely up to you guys. I think you always retain that discretion. You've decided cases that were filed late to accept jurisdiction for other reasons, just based on those cases. And you had one in Clark County. The county appealed to or filed a petition for judicial review and lost. So, you guys accept jurisdiction and hear a case on its merits, and that is really what, a court would want, as opposed to just dismissing by saying you don't have jurisdiction. So I don't think you have to in any particular case just because you've done something in the past. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's very on point. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle, for that. And any other comments from the board, discussion in general, and any issues? Seeing as none, calendar wise, our next meeting is October 19th. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And that'll be on Zoom as well, I assume.
Yes.
Okay, great. And otherwise, let's open it up for public comment. It looks like there's 9 meeting participants. Anyone that wants to say anything, public comment, please feel free. Now's your time.
For the record, this is Shannon Scott with the Washoe County Assessor's Office. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you all for your time today. We appreciate you hearing this case. I also failed to mention before, and I wanted just to bring it to light, that Washoe County does have a mechanism for our taxpayers to, after billing, go back into their account online and they can view their assets as reported. So we do have that technology available for our taxpayers.
Wonderful. And I always struggle with not wanting to give anyone special treatment. But would you just reach out to Martin and let him know that exists and let him know how to find it? And it may well exist down in Douglas. I've tried and I haven't been able to find it. And I have a couple times said, wow, like, did that get through correctly when I'm filing my personal property tax declaration? So yeah, just reaching out. And I really do, end of the day, my time on the state board, like I walk away incredibly impressed by the hard work you guys put in to your job. And I just never want that to be lost because we're here deciding stuff where it's little criticisms on the strangest cases. But I mean, I walk away just extraordinarily impressed by the hard work that you guys put into your job. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Perfect. Any other public comment? Anyone on the line that wants to offer public comment? Oh, Michelle, how long do we need to keep this open for? I'm incredibly aware, I guess, and just want to comply with public meeting laws, open meeting laws, and want to make sure we're doing everything right there.
There's no particular time frame. If there's no one available now, then I think you're fine.
Great. Christina, anyone you're aware of that is on the line that would want to make public comment called in or otherwise?
There is nobody on the line for public comment.
Great. Well, with that, I appreciate all your participation today. Appreciate your hard work, Nicole, and we will close this meeting and adjourn.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.